Yeah, sorry, man. I completely forgot to
No, it's cool. Don't worry
set
about
in
it.
stone that we were going to record today. But you showed up pretty quickly. It was like put like the VIN signal in the sky, or the podcast reload signal. I guess it reaches the Osaka sky from Kyoto.
Just the image of that, just like a huge V in the sky. That'd be great. Just all these Japanese people looking around like, what the fuck? Yeah, Korean, like,
Yeah.
just like really confused.
You're like outside on a nice day. You're like about to blow your birthday candles off, and you just see that I gotta go. You just leave, run to the closet and start recording.
Do you have a costume?
I don't. Can you? Well, I've got my birthday costume, if you know what I mean.
Oh God.
That is so relevant today as well. What's up, guys, and welcome to episode 20 of Podcast Reload. It's the general gaming podcast by SifTed.net subscribers, where we invite a community guest onto the show to talk about the games industry in all its weird ways. I am your host, Vin Hill, and joining me, as always, is my co-host and fellow Japan dweller, Evan Piotrowski.
Hello, everyone.
And joining us as well is, of course, our community guest, and this week we have a returning guest, which is the mod, Wilson.
What's up, folks?
Cool, so I don't think we've actually got any sort of community feedback or any housekeeping whatsoever. So we're going to move straight on into our question of the week. So Wilson, we've got a question for you, man.
I've got an answer.
Okay, so if you could have any developer make any game, remake, sequel, new IP, whatever, who and what would it be?
That is a good question.
Have you got a good answer? Sorry,
I think I'd have to go with Shinji Mikami,
Okay.
making a sequel to Resident Evil 4. That is arguably my favorite game of all time. And we kind of got that in a sense because he formed a new studio and they made The Evil Within, which is kind of a spiritual successor in terms of like the gameplay. But I would love a full-on like Resident Evil 4 2. I mean, I would just bring back Leon, figure out a way to get Ashley kidnapped again and send him back to Europe and just make a new game because I loved every aspect of that and even playing other Mikami games. I just recently played the first Resident Evil and I love The Evil Within. I really enjoy everything that guy directs. So I think that would be my dream game.
Well, the Resident Evil 2 remake, is that going to be like old tank mechanics, or are they sort of reverting to the new sort of over-the-shoulder thing? Like, do any of you guys know?
I don't know. I don't think they've said it. I'm pretty confident that they've shown no gameplay. So I would guess that they're probably going to retain the classic, fixed camera angles that were present in the original version. But
the old tank controls, like a lot of people don't like them, but in the remaster, because I've just been playing the old Resident Evil 1 remaster on the PS4 because it's free this month. But yeah, like sometimes I really fight with it, and then other times I'm just like, yeah, I can see why they upgraded it, but yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, well, Wilson, have you ever played the Revelation series?
I have, yeah. I've played both.
What did you think of 2?
I enjoyed it. I think it was really clear that the budget of that game was low. It felt to me like it was made by the Resident Evil B team. It's like they had their guys, work. Okay, you guys go work on RE7, but we should probably release something Resident Evil. So you guys do Revelations too. Overall, I did enjoy the game. I mean, I just love survival horror so much, so it's really hard. I mean, I can find enjoyment in most any survival horror game, but I thought it was a good game overall, and I really like raid mode. I think that's it. I think that's really only in the Revelations games. I like that better than the Mercenaries. I think that's a great addition, but I like the Revelations series, but I don't think there's something that just doesn't click with me as well as some of the mainline Resident Evil games.
Yeah, I haven't been interested in Resident Evil in a while because just like the whole horror aspect of it has sort of faded out for me. That's the only thing. Like Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 0, and then after that it just started going into this like action adventure era, and I was just like, what is this? Like, I'm not really interested in this anymore. So yeah, no, it would be cool to see like that sort of Resident Evil 4 styled survival horror game back.
Yeah, I hope they make that game someday too. It's one of my favorite games of all time as well.
Oh, it's
Sweet.
a classic.
Yep.
Indeed. Cool. So we should probably move on. Move on straight into what we've been playing this week. So we'll start off with you, Evan. What have you been playing this week, man?
I haven't been playing much. I think I played video games 2 days this last week, but I actually picked up A Link Between Worlds again. I was about 2 or 3 hours into it.
Nice.
And I beat that last week. And
Nice.
It's a good game. But it is essentially A Link to the Past. I mean, down to the world traversal beats and the same 3 palaces in the light world, and then the 7 in the dark, or low rule.
Yeah. Say right, goddammit.
Yeah, it's essentially the same thing, but like I think I brought it up in the podcast before. In Japan, the first A Link to the Past is called Triforce of the Gods, and this one's called Triforce of the Gods 2.
Right.
Interesting.
So it's a direct sequel.
Yeah, maybe they should have called it A Link to the Past too. But if you think about it, A Link to the Past isn't a very accurate name because he doesn't go into the past. He goes to the dark world.
Yeah.
So actually, the game should have been called A Link Between Worlds, and this one
Originally,
maybe A Link Between Worlds 2.
That is a good point.
Yeah, but even though... So then I started thinking about this naming stuff, and I was thinking, well, they named it A Link to the Past, right? The title's a bit inaccurate. But they could have totally made up for it by calling Ocarina of Time A Link to the Future. How did they not?
True. But then probably everyone would have thought that would be a sequel directly to Link to the Past, which I know it sort of is in a way, but...
Yeah.
Yeah. Link Between Worlds, I thought it was great. Link to the Past is my favorite Zelda. Like, I'm not an advocate of the Ocarina of Time being the best one by far. Like, I don't think it's as timeless as Link to the Past, so, like, playing through that sequel was great on the 3DS. Actually, I thought it was probably one of the best Zeldas that they've made in a few years. So yeah, I was happy to play through it.
I like the last boss was clever. How they used the kind of go into the wall mechanic.
Yeah.
In the boss fight, that was cool.
Mechanic.
Rovio was cool. The approach this world how you like sensibility was refreshing, especially with the weapon loan system. It made dying and also collecting rupees a bit more meaningful. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I really liked it. And then also, last night I came back from watching the F1, and my wife's friends were over, and they wanted to see me play Yakuza 5. But
again,
they love the whole like betrayal and brotherhood and like the very like melodramatic Japanese.
Let's be honest, they just wanted you to walk around the streets and just beat up like people in the streets, right? That's
yeah. But I didn't have it because I deleted it off my hard drive. But I did have Yakuza 4, which I never beat because I played it on hard and then I just gave up. So I put that game in, and I actually beat it last night after like having it sitting on my shelf for like 3 years. So yeah, I was happy that I actually got to finish that game, especially since 6 is coming out in December. But cool. Yeah, A Link Between Worlds and Yakuza 4, both good games.
When you mentioned at some point to me, I don't know if you actually went through that, but you were talking about getting Persona 5 on the PS3. Did you get around to that, or?
No, I think, was it Curious Conjurer and B. Cooper 21? They'd probably be pretty mad at me. My initial plan was to play through that game before I get my PS4, so that I could tackle other games like Uncharted, just because Persona 5 is such a beefy game. But then I just decided, you know what, I don't want to buy any more PlayStation 3 games because I'm probably going to shelve it, you know?
So that makes sense, yeah.
I thought I went to the store, it was like $75. Both the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 4 version. And I was like,
screw that.
I'm not buying a PlayStation 3 game for $75, so...
Yeah, fair point.
So yeah, I'm going to buy it sometime this year. I want to get through it before it comes out in the States in February, but yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, and then you'll be actually able to talk about a new game that no one else has played for the first time ever in Podcast Reload history.
I was totally ready. I was totally ready to do it this week.
So was I. I was excited. I was like, oh man, like he's played a game that came out within the last 6 months, not the last 7 years.
Nope. I actually went. Nope. I actually went back. I went backwards. I played Yakuza 5, and then I go back to Yakuza 4.
So close. So close. So good. How about you, Wilson? What have you been playing this week, man?
Well, I have a the monthly habit of trying out the PS Plus games that come out every month. As I mentioned, I was playing Resident Evil earlier, and then just the past couple of days, I've jumped into Transformers Devastation.
Oh God!
And I'm not a Transformers fan, so I would have never bought the game. I was glad to see that it was released on PS Plus because I wouldn't have paid the money for it. And I beat it last night. Incredibly short game. I beat it in 4 hours and 40 minutes. I think was my final playtime. Wow! And that game is normally. It's listed on the PlayStation Store as being $40. I can't remember if that was a full $60 release or not when it first came out, but it's remarkably short. It is platinum, so I mean that is certainly a reliable studio. Definitely not the A platinum team. Whoever made Bayonetta 2.
Let's not talk about Star Fox. Let's just sweep that one under the rug.
It's one of those developers where it's like feels like they're making 10 games at a time, but
right.
But it definitely it clearly had a low budget because you are in the same environment for almost the entire game. They have basically two environments. They have sort of a city environment and then this sort of laboratory environment. So you just retread a lot of the same ground and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's sort of it's a third person character action beat 'em up sort of Platinum's bread and butter. And it's pretty mindless. There aren't any combos or anything to learn. There's just a light attack and a heavy attack. You can switch characters and weapons you'll acquire. So there's a bit of depth to it. But overall, I stuck with one character and I just kept mashing square and triangle over and over again. But I like doing that. So I enjoyed it. I think it is totally worth $0 if you are subscribed to PlayStation Plus. It's definitely worth your time because again, it's not going to take you a whole lot of time to beat it. It's so short.
Right.
But I would not recommend paying for it. At least at a $40 price point. And then I have also been digging into Shadow Complex Remastered, which is not a PS Plus game, but just one that I bought. And this I think came out originally in 2009, and
it was on the
Xbox
360, right?
Exclusive. Yeah. And so I think they announced the remaster at the Game Awards last December, and that's when they announced that it would become a multi-platform game. So I've been playing that on PlayStation 4, and it's pretty unapologetically a Metroidvania game, which is fine with me because I really enjoy that
it's not
genre.
a bad thing.
It is definitely a much more guided experience than a lot. I played Axiom Verge a few months ago. I don't know if other of you guys have had the chance to play that, but there are some moments in that, or even like Super Metroid or something, where what you're supposed to do is completely on the other side of the map, and you kind of have to just get lucky and guess you got to drop a bomb right here, and it happens to blow up this little part of the map, and you wonder how you were supposed to figure that out. But this is a much more guided experience, or guided experience. That they literally have a line that shows you point A, point B, and where you need to go. And
that's similar to Strider, I think.
Is
the
it
new Strider game?
I haven't gotten stuck once, and to have not been stuck in I'm a good 3 or 4 hours in. I think I'm pretty close to beating it, but to have not gotten stuck at all in a Metroidvania game is kind of weird. But it's kind of like really.
Go ahead.
It's an enjoyable game for sure. It's got your typical you grab your upgrades and whatnot as you progress. The shooting, you play as this character named Jason. His girlfriend gets kidnapped, and you go through and are basically trying to save her. The story is pretty generic, and it's interesting because the main character is voiced by Nolan North, who
I did not know that.
Yeah, and he sounds exactly like Nathan Drake in this game.
Right.
I think that voice is kind of like his real voice. I don't think he's really throwing his voice a whole lot for Nathan Drake. So it sounds like Nathan Drake, except inferior writing. I kind of wonder, like, because this was '09, so Nolan North was either like recording the Uncharted 2 dialogue or like already had.
Right.
So I just wonder if he was rolling his eyes at some of these lines in the game. But
yeah, he might have been. Yeah,
from first to last.
It's really interesting to hear that. But it's also a very ugly game. It has not aged well at all. There's really no unique art style or anything to it. I mean, if this is what the remaster looks like, I don't know what the original was. I mean, that was not a pretty picture, but obviously, I'm not terribly concerned about graphical fidelity, but overall, it is a fun experience. If you're looking for sort of a Metroidvania game that's more approachable and less arcane than a lot of other. I think that's kind of a stereotype of the genre, which is largely true. But this one is a lot more approachable. It's easy to get into and easy to progress. And it's not hard either. I've rarely died. So I think if you're looking for something like that and you've never really you kind of want to dip your toe into that genre, I think it's a good choice.
Cool.
Yeah, I think I didn't play it when it first came out, and I'll probably play it at some point when I get my hands on a PlayStation 4. It's I like the Metroidvania genre, so definitely something I'll look into. And cool. Vin, how about you? What have you been playing?
I haven't been playing that much, to be honest. I've had a bit of a busy week, but I dabbled a little bit in Resident Evil because it was free on the PSN store, so I thought, why not? Had a good go of it, but I realised that I pretty much already played it because I actually had all of the remasters that came out on the GameCube. So I had Resident Evil 0, 1, 2, I think 3 came out on the GameCube as well, and I also had 4, so I went through them all then. So, like, as I was playing it, I was like, yeah, I've definitely played this remaster already, so I know I'll probably definitely get around to finishing it, but yeah, it's definitely dated in the old controls a little bit, but it's nice to look back and see like where we've come. So
yeah, I will have to get around to playing that at some point. I didn't own a GameCube, and
right,
yeah.
Other than that, I've just been playing a lot of FPSs basically, just in the run up to Battlefield 1 coming out. Been playing a lot of Rainbow Six Siege and Battlefield 4 because I've been wanting to see like how they've been fixed and tweaked over the years. And Battlefield 4 is still a hot mess of unbalancedness. So
really,
yeah, I mean it's a good game. It's great, if you're in like a full party or whatever. But the weapons balancing is just all over the place, and yeah, it's hard to play sometimes, and the spawns on it are just awful to play online. But Rainbow Six Siege is always as balanced and as nice as ever. It just depends who you play with, which, some people are really bad in parties, and other times they just run up when you're meant to protect a hostage in the basement or whatever. They all run upstairs onto the 3rd floor, waiting for the terrorists to spawn up there. And it's like, yeah, thanks for the help, guys. I'll just stay down here and watch the VIP. No worries. Oh, you're all dead. Oh, you're dead. Okay, I'll just. No, that's cool. Like, I'll defend him until I die as well. No, thanks. Cool, assholes. And just like it's that over and over again. So sometimes it's really frustrating, but other times it's really rewarding and fun. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Though I haven't really had much time to play anything crazy. Like as I said last week, I've been sort of avoiding The Witcher because that game scares me by how good it looks. So yeah, I'm gonna wait until I've got some free time to dive into that one. But yeah,
sure. One of these days.
Yeah, one day we shall see. I mean, I'm sure I'll be on here one day, like kind of feeling like you a little bit, saying, "Oh, I finally got around to The Witcher 3," and everyone's like, "Oh my god, they came out like 5 years ago. We're all playing Cyberpunk, whatever it is." I was like, "Yeah, okay, leave me alone." I'm sure it's going to happen. But yeah, we should probably move on. We're going to move on into our main section of the podcast now, which is our main topics. We're going to kick off with you, Wilson. Do you want to talk about and introduce what your main topic is for this week?
Sure, yeah. So my topic is the value of a game and sort of how one defines that. Because obviously games are expensive. I mean, it's much more of an investment than going and seeing a movie in the theater or just downloading an album or something. I mean, they cost a lot of money. So and for a lot of people, it's like they have there's a lot of great games out there, but you kind of have to pick and choose which ones you want to go with. I mean, some people can only get a couple games a year, so it could be a gamble on what you pick. But it just I always kind of think of what I deem in a game to make it of value. And the obvious answer would be, well, how much time did you get out of it? What was your play time? And I kind of always have had like this rule in my head that if I get at least like a third play time of dollars spent, that it's good. Like if I spend $60 on a game and I get 20 hours out of it, it's like, all right, that was a worthwhile investment.
Yeah, worth it.
But I think it's interesting to kind of look at the other elements of a game, and you could buy something for $60 and maybe get 5 hours out of it. But what elements make you feel as though you've got your money's worth? Because I've played games that don't that doesn't that don't reach that criterion that I've set, and yet I feel like after I'm done with it, I don't regret that purchase at all. Like even though it was fleeting, like it was so rich that it was you get a little bit of food, but like it's filling, regardless of the fact that it wasn't a full plate.
Right.
So a good example for me, exactly. A good example for me is like Journey. I mean that's a really short game. I mean I think I beat that in like 2 hours, but the experience was memorable and enjoyable enough to the point that even though it was such a short experience and I spent more money than way more money than I got hours out of the game, it was an experience that I was so glad that I had, that it didn't really matter to me what the length was, and I was happy that they would stop. I'd much rather have a really great short experience than a padded out dozens of hours experience that doesn't need it. So
I think Journey was definitely a game that didn't need to be any longer than it was, and I must have played through that game at least 8 times. I mean I went through to get all the trophies, I remember, and it took me a while to actually find someone that was in my world that I could play the entire game with.
90% of it,
silver.
Yeah, I remember that one.
That's the easiest example, I think. I'm pretty sure we all really, really, really like Journey, right? Vin, it's one of your favorite games, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on my top 10 games. It's actually 10th. But yeah, I mean, it's $20. It's two hours long, if that. But it's really about the experience of it. Like as Wilson said, I don't regret spending that $10 per hour or whatever. And it's like you said, like you replay it so many times because just like the experience sort of repeats itself. Like I can still, if I booted up that game right now and played through it, I'd still feel the exact same sort of experience as what I had the first time I played it, which is really, really powerful. So the fact that you can play it over and over again is different every time, and there's people online still playing it, and there's still quite an active community around it. It's kind of crazy thinking about it, like considering if that game was even a 7 out of 10, people would be shredding it to pieces like, oh my God, I can't believe it's $20, like it's only 2 hours long. It'll be a completely different conversation. But the fact that it was such a great experience, like it's worth that money, regardless of how long it actually is in the game.
Yeah, I think that's true. This is a difficult thing for me to tackle going forward because since I bought my PS3 so late in the cycle...
Right, you've got a lot of choices ahead of you.
Well, also, I never really paid full price for a game because I was already 3 years behind in terms of the games that I've played. Mm-hmm. So every game I played, it was like it was either out from PS Plus or I bought it used because it came out 2 years ago, or I got it on a PlayStation sale at some point.
The PS4 has been out for a while now, so you probably should be hitting that same stride again. Like if you went out and bought, I don't know, like The Order 1886, or if you bought Assassin's Creed 4 or Battlefield 4, like launch games for the PS4, you'd probably find them for less than $20 at this point.
That's true. Yeah, like Psycho Break or what is that called? The Evil Within.
Evil Within. Yeah,
it's about $15 now. The equivalent, $15 US. Even Metal Gear Solid 5 is like $20 now. So
yeah, it's dropping.
Yeah, I mean, going forward, like some newer games like your Persona 5 or Yakuza 6, I'll be paying top dollar for. But
right,
yeah, this is an interesting topic, and I think buying games that, especially with like Steam sales and PlayStation sales, and a game will be out for a week, and then you can buy Doom for $40 on some sale at some random site.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole thing of price per hour of gameplay, or however you want to do the math on that, is very different now. And I was actually reading an article about buying games at value prices and how they can ruin the perception of game value. It's actually called Ars Technica. It's an article from them called Low Prices, Low Expectations. And the co-founder of World of Goo, Ron Carmel, he said, and I quote, "When it comes to perception, a deep discount gets people playing the game that they wouldn't play otherwise. And I think that has both positive and negative effects. The negative is that I'm willing to pay $5, but not $20. I probably don't want to play the game very much, so maybe I'm not as excited about it after I play it, and maybe I drive down the average appreciation of the game." End quote. So, there are more aspects to the value of a game than price, but I think they're just inextricably linked to some point.
I mean, well, look at PlayStation Plus. That's the perfect example. Like if you, like every month, if you've got a PS3, a PS4, and a Vita, like I do, like if you've got like 5-6 games there for free every month. Like, do I play all 6 of them games? No, but I download them. Like, why? Why do I do that? And like, I ask myself it's the same question I ask myself every single week. It's like, okay, like I've got these games for free, which are probably really good quality games, but like I don't really care about them that much because they're free. I know it sounds really stupid, but I do the same thing with Steam sales as well. Like if something's like really, really cheap, like I'm less inclined to go and play it right away. But if I buy a $60 game, like chances are like the second I bought it and it's on my system, I'll boot it up right away. It's just this weird sort of connection that we have. And it's not really something that we can explain. It's just, I think there's something to do with like excitement around a $60 game as well, because you know it's only just come out. And everyone else is talking about it, and everyone else is, playing the game as well. And I mean, we're on Sifted every day. We see people bring up, every single game that comes out in a forum post, or they're talking about it in the comments. So yeah, I think they are sort of linked, like that article is suggesting. So it is really, really interesting.
And this was more about like indie games, right? And
right.
I think in terms of indie game pricing, I think the market's kind of spoken. Like, your games like Journey and Limbo and Braid and Undertale and Abzu and Gone Home. Yeah, it's like you're kind of around the $15 to $20 mark. And this article also goes into indie developers pricing their games and then them not doing very well. And then they kind of talk with Steam and they're like, this game should probably be priced for this amount of money. Like, you should lower it by $5 or $10. And then the game ends up being a bit more successful. But yeah, that's...
Yeah, it's interesting. But like in terms of like what like elements of a game is worth it when it comes to that purchase, like specific game mechanics, like what are you going to be looking out for when you're buying like your PS4 games? Like, is there anything in particular? Like, is it just time, or is it the experience, or is it like obviously for yourself you're not like into multiplayer and stuff, but is there anything like specific that you look out for, especially when you're thinking about your PS4?
It's interesting. I know lots of games now will have a single player campaign. Not now, it's been going on forever, for a long time, but single player and multiplayer. Look at Uncharted 4. I am not interested in the slightest in the multiplayer, but
it is very good. I have to give it credit. It is actually a really decent multiplayer section. So
which I've heard from most people. It says very competent. But
I just have to say that before you carry on. But
sure,
go on.
Sure.
Sorry.
I'm not gonna. I haven't played it. I watched you play it actually around the E3, but
so you did, yeah.
I'm just looking for, and this is so vague, like just a complete experience of a game. And I think games like Uncharted 2 or Uncharted 3 or Uncharted 4, I'm willing to pay full price for the single player campaign. I think it's worth that amount of money, and I'm pretty sure that the developers think it's worth that amount of money too, because they made this game and it's like, this is the single player campaign, this is the story you want to tell, and this is how much money it's worth. And you can figure in how long it takes you to play through that if you want to.
Right.
But, unlike the Dead Space games, it's just, those games I view as, regardless of how long the campaign is or whatever, I feel like it was a complete game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Nothing was missing from start to finish. And that, if I feel that way, it's just being satisfied, I suppose, then I'm willing to pay, what they're asking in that set price of $60.
Right. So like in terms of like time per dollar, like Wilson mentioned, like that's not an issue for you, or?
I suppose it also depends on the game. I mean, obviously Uncharted 4, it's like, well, yeah, it's like a 90 plus on Metacritic. It's going to be a good game.
Right.
But I guess it depends on the game, really. I'm a big fan of the 10 to 15 hour single player campaign. That seems to be a really nice sweet spot for full games. Mm-hmm. If you want to put time into it, I would definitely say like that's enough time for me to put into a game. Like also Tomb Raider is coming out. Like I pretty sure
it's out tomorrow, right?
Are you serious? Oh,
yeah, I think it's out tomorrow.
I gotta wait a while.
Yep. Cool. So how about you, Wilson? Is there anything in terms of time? Like, is there any specific like game mechanics that you look out for when you're like thinking about buying a game?
I mean, there's definitely certain genres that I know going into it I will replay. As I mentioned, like survival horror, for example, like Resident Evil 4 or an Evil Within or something like that. I know going into it that I'm gonna play it again. Or games that have a new game plus mechanic. It's like, okay, I know that if I enjoy this experience, that and I do a lot of research before I buy games, so I have a pretty good idea that I'm probably gonna like a game before I buy it. It's like, okay, that's a good incentive for me to put more time into it, which I guess goes back to time. But there are certain elements, upgrading your character and being able to have the sense of progression. It compels me a lot, and I'm also very much a single player person. I if a game has a multiplayer component, I will always give it a try and see if it that'll hook me in, and I'll play that for a while. But I'm definitely a single player person, and definitely agree with you, Evan, that as long as it feels like this complete package, even if it didn't, even if it was a 12-hour game a 12-hour experience that cost me $45, I'm content with that.
Right.
And I can totally empathize with what you said, Van, about with PS Plus. It's like if I'm playing a PS Plus game that I got for the month and I'm not really enjoying it, maybe I put in 45 minutes to an hour into it, I'm not really digging it.
Right.
It's
You'll
gone.
abandon
Like,
it, right?
I'll boot
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
It's off the system. But if I bought it, it's like, well, I spent money on this. I got.
Yeah, you're more inclined to push through it. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta. It's like I owe it to myself and to the game. I paid. Even if it's just like $5 or $10, it's like, well, I paid money for this. I gotta at least give it a shot. And it is very interesting to see how the perception of value changes. Because like you look at the mobile market and like I think obviously with the just the flood of free content there, it's really devalued games. Because I'll look at the App Store and I'll look at a game and I'll think, oh, this looks interesting, and I'll scroll back up to the top after looking at the information, and it's like $2.99, and I'm like, oh well, no, I don't want to do that.
Right.
And it's like, well, come on, that's $3. I spend more on that for lunch, but it's
it's a cup of coffee, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, but it's this mental perception that I've developed over the years of having so many mobile free games offered, and yet if I go onto the PSN store and I see a game that looks interesting and it's $15, I'll say, well, let's do it. Like I'm ready, I'm down. Let's do it. So it's very interesting that different environments and the pricing that is prevalent there impacts heavily my willingness to pick up a game.
Yeah, I mean when it comes to buying games with me, it depends on the game completely. I mean, if it's an action adventure game, like I'm totally with like Evan on this, like the whole 15 to 20 hour experience, like even if it hasn't got anything else, like it's got no DLC, no multiplayer, whatever, like I don't care, like I'm there for that experience. That's why I didn't mind the Order 1886. Like it was a good like 8-hour game or whatever, like it looked good. A lot of people complained about it, but it wasn't that bad. Like I don't think it was that bad.
I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. But I only paid $20 for it, so
Right, exactly.
As somebody who paid $16, they might have a different answer for you.
Yeah, inextricably linked, isn't it? You kind of keep going back to that type of thing, but you kind of have to, like, it is part of it. But actually, I think Wilson, you brought up some good points about in terms of mechanics. Aside from how long the game is, in terms of things like New Game Plus, like that is a great way to extend the life of a game that has a single player campaign that's only 10 hours long. Or even if you like trophies, like every now and then I'll look at the trophy guide and see like, is it possible for me to platinum this game without tearing my hair out?
Yep.
That's happened with a couple games. Like after I beat Far Cry 4, I checked the trophy guide. I had like 10 more trophies to get, looked at what it was going to take for me to do it, and then I pumped in another 15 hours into that game completing it. to get those trophies. So that type of thing does extend the life of the game, and also you get more out of it, even if the single player experience is over. I think that's a really important part. Like, Vin, what other mechanics do you think are important for things like that, like upgrading?
I mean, it depends. Like with FPSs, like it's endlessly about like important to have like upgrade systems and stuff that sort of stretch out that experience. Like if everyone played Call of Duty and they had every single gun unlocked and every single level and all that sort of stuff, and they were all just running around with all the same weapons or whatever, like there'd be no progression, there'd be no incentive to like continue on. And the reason why people play Call of Duty is so they can play it for like 1 or even 2 years at a time sometimes. Like I put 2 years into Call of Duty World at War, and it's like one of my favorite games. Like if that didn't have a progression system,
that's crazy.
Like that would have faded
2
out.
years.
Like so much
it's just
quicker,
numbers,
you know?
but I mean, I just buy Call of Duty once every 3 years, and like I would play it for a few hours and then I'd be done. But that progression, it's just numbers, but it
makes a difference.
I can't stop
that flame would have like burnt out way quicker. Like I probably would have been done with that game in a couple of months, like if everything was unlocked. And that sort of like happened in, I think it was Black Ops 2 maybe. Like they allow you to unlock any weapon that you want in the game, like right off the bat. And they say, okay, here's a load of points that you like get instead of experience, and you can unlock any weapon. Like none of them are locked behind like a level wall or whatever. And that game burnt out so fast for me because it was just like, all right, like I can just pick the best weapons and I'm done pretty much. And I kind of got bored of that game really quickly, even though it was made by the same people that made Call of Duty World at War. Like it just did not last. So a lot of value has to come from that as well, I guess. But ultimately, like this whole discussion just comes down to people need to read reviews. You know, like before you buy a game, read a review and see like your personal self to say, okay, I personally will get value out of this game because of X, Y, and Z. It's because it's all objective, right? Like we all like different things. Like Evan doesn't like multiplayer games, whereas I love them. So if it's got a multiplayer aspect, like I'm going to be more inclined to say, okay, that's got more value in it for my money. Whereas to Evan, like that's like the value doesn't increase in any way whatsoever. It's like, oh, it's just an extra bit, which I don't really give a shit about. So what does it matter to me? So ultimately, it just comes down to like be smart, like read a review,
do your research.
A lot of reviews even. Like don't just read one. Like find a wide range of them. Like go into Metacritic and just go and like, you know, open 5 of them in a new tab and read through them. Say, okay, will this be worth my $60 or not? So I think that's what it ultimately comes down to. But yeah, good discussion though. It was something that I don't really think about that often actually when it comes to like value for money. I think it just really depends, I guess. But yeah, we should probably move on anyway. Evan, do you want to kick us off with our topic of the week?
Yeah, so the podcast reload topic of the week is cleaning out your backlog. And I thought of this topic this week because I decided not to buy Persona 5. And so what do I play for, this month leading up to me purchasing a PlayStation 4 Pro? And I went on and looked at my backlog, and I do have a lot of stuff on there. Definitely more than I could get through in a month. And I'm not buying any more games to hold me over for the month, so I'm looking to go through that backlog and see what I want to play through. And I guess the first thing I'll ask, and I'll throw this to Wilson to start this conversation off, is Wilson, how big is your backlog?
Oh, it's big.
That's what she said.
You got it.
I can empathize with you, Evan, in that I picked up a PS4. A good chunk. Not only did I pick up a PS4, I think I got it in June of 2015, so a year and a half had already gone by of the generation. But beyond that, I skipped last generation in that I only had a Wii and I didn't have a 360 nor a PS3. So not only do I have all these new games from this gen that I had to play, but like we're getting
remasters.
A ridiculous number of ports, and I've never played them. So I missed out on a ton of stuff from last gen. So I just suddenly going from being a Nintendo only I only own Nintendo systems, and I was constantly in game droughts. I was faced with this flood of content. And so I have just, I actually made a running list of everything that I wanted to get once I picked up my PS4, and the list has never ever
never
become empty. I haven't even bought everything that I want to get yet, and I let alone play it. But it's interesting because I don't even like when I think about everything that I've got to play, I don't think of it as a backlog. Like, because I think I mentioned this last time that I was on the podcast. Like, I play my games in ascending order of excitement, so I just go through everything and I pick. Okay.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You did talk about that. Yeah,
So
that's a good way to do it.
Every single one, and I'm like, which one am I least excited to play? Because I always want to have something that I'm more excited about to look forward to in the future. So I just play it that way, and so I sort of view what I haven't played as my forward log, I guess, if you want to.
Sure.
That's a term.
Yeah, like because you're talking about games you need to play that you just haven't purchased yet, whereas someone's backlog are going to be the handful of games they already bought and they're just sitting there waiting to be played, right?
Right. Yeah. Like when I buy a game, I know I will play that game, and when I start a game, I will beat that game. You know, I'm very, very
smart,
very determined in that manner, and so I don't have any that I picked up and I was iffy on, and I just kind of threw it in the back corner, and maybe I'll come back to it at some point. But despite that, I have an incredibly huge number of games I need to play, and given the day and age of games that we're in, games are massive, and some of them, I mean, you talk about Witcher. You mentioned Witcher 3. I mean, I haven't played that, and good lord, I mean, who knows how many. I mean, that'll be 100+ hour experience probably from me. So, I mean, there are so many things to play. I will never, ever catch up. And I've just accepted that fact, but, it's a good problem to have. But
welcome to the life of a gamer, I guess.
Yeah. But,
okay, well,
it is big.
All right. So, well, Vin, Wilson kind of mentioned how he tackles his backlog or his forward log or whatever you want to call it. So Vin, right. Like how big is your backlog, and like what are your plans to tackle it?
Oh God, I think it's Erebus Jones on the site rightfully calls it his pile of shame, and I think
that's right.
I sort of agree with him on that. It is definitely a pile of shame. Yeah, I mean, like everyone else, I've got a massive pile of shame, you could say. I think anyone that has a PC with Steam installed has a pile of shame. Just like you go through one Steam sale and you pick up so much like extra baggage from, all these bundles and all this crazy stuff. But even on the PS4, like because I'm all digital now, it's like over the last month they've recently updated the PS4 firmware, so you can actually have custom folders in the firmware now. And I've actually I've made 2 folders. One is finished and one is pile of shame. And like there's so many games in my pile of shame folder, it's ridiculous. And it's just every time I look in it, it just feels almost like a chore, but it's not, obviously. It's like a first world problem, I know. It's like the problem of first world problems. But yeah, I think I'm like Wilson. I've sort of accepted the fact that I'm probably never going to get through all of these games, but it's basically based on how I'm feeling, like personal life as well. Like if I'm really busy at work or whatever, like I don't want to come down and try and get into The Witcher 3 for half an hour before I like go to bed or whatever. That's just it's crazy. So like I've got a lot of games which I constantly go back to, like a lot of FPSs. I'll play through a few games of those, and I know that's like while my fiance is getting ready or something, we're going to dinner, I can blast through a couple of games while she's getting ready or whatever. But I can't do that with The Witcher 3. And a lot of my games in my pile of shame are the bigger ones because they're harder to get through. Like I've still got the Mass Effect trilogy to get through as well. Like it's just insane. Just time, man. We've got no time. But yeah, I think like everyone else, I've probably got about 300 games somewhere. Like if you were to count all the Steam games and all of the console games, it's just a crazy, stupid amount. And it is a first world problem, but I don't think it's ever going to go away, sort of thing. But how about you?
Me?
Yeah. Have you got have you got many left on your PS3 now? Like you mentioned that you've got some, but like how many have you got? Do you know? Any rough numbers?
Well, I went through my entire list. I logged on and wrote down the games that I'm interested in, and there are some games I just know like I'm going to leave untouched. I know I spent money on them, but I'm just trying to be realistic. I got to cut my losses, and I'm just not going to get to those games. Mm-hmm. My list isn't the games that I'm interested in playing isn't that long. Let's see. I wrote it down here. I have Beyond Two Souls, Siren Blood Curse, South Park. Never played that. The first one, obviously.
Yeah, because the second one isn't coming out for some months.
Yeah, so I guess I do have a bit of time.
Yeah, shut up, leave me alone.
But I've heard that game is like, it's an RPG, and hey, you brought it up.
Hey man, Stick of Truth is a good game, and I didn't have anything to do with it. I'm just saying.
All right. Full disclosure, what are you working on right now?
Shut up. Just leave me alone.
Scott Pilgrim, that kind of 2D brawler, which I don't really know if I'm going to play. Those levels are way too long. I mean,
right. Beat
'em up levels should not be that long. It actually kind of ruined the game for me. I stopped playing it. God of War Ascension. Tales of Monkey Island and Sam & Max, which...
Oh, man, you haven't played those games?
No, but I bought them really, really cheap on a sale, and I think I booted up Tales of Monkey Island. That game looks like dog shit now.
Yeah, it does.
It's fucking rough looking, yeah. I don't know if I can actually get through it.
Have you played the remaster of The Secrets of Monkey Island?
No, I have not.
It's actually really good. Like, it's actually one of the better remasters, I would say. So if you're into point-and-click action adventure games, then that is the one to check out.
Oh, don't put
add
more
it to
on
your
my
pile. Add it to the list. I'm just trying to increase it. It looks better when it's more formidable. If it's got a shadow looming over you, then it's a good prize.
Did you say you're going to grease my list?
Maybe.
Okay.
I did not say that. I did not.
Okay.
Anyway, continue.
And then to round out the list, I have Dragon's Dogma and Remember Me. Are there any on that list that do you guys recommend? Obviously, South Park is probably the top of the list.
Like all of these games that you mentioned, and it's probably the same for me and Wilson as well, and anyone else listening. Like the pile of shame is normally like these 7 out of 10 games. The ones that they weren't reviewed badly, but they weren't reviewed great either, sort of thing. They're just in the middle, sort of floating around in the reviews. Lackluster sort of reception, and that's where most of my pile of shame sort of exists. Like most of the games that you just said, it just say to me like, yeah, average game, yeah, average game, yeah, average game. Not bad games, but just a lot of average ones,
Yeah, I mean, and that's probably why that a lot of these 7 to 10 games constantly go on sale on PlayStation. On these PlayStation sales. And that's probably where I got most of these games at some point. Picked them up on a sale, or they were a PlayStation Plus game.
Yeah, Steam summer sales are the worst for that. I mean, if you're sat there and you're looking, hey, I really like them Tomb Raider games, and it's okay, Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3, and then it pops up saying, hey, you could buy the Tomb Raider bundle or the IDOS bundle or whatever, and it's got like 100 games in it for the same price. You're like, all right, yeah, why not? Like that just adds so many games to your pile. It's ridiculous, and you're never going to get around to them.
So here's another question. I think Wilson tackles this a bit differently, but I'll get your take on it first, Vin. Like, do you purchase too many video games, whether that be Steam sales, PlayStation sales, or otherwise?
Is this an AA meeting? Yes, I do. My name is Vin. I buy too many video games.
I was going to say, introduce yourself.
Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, 100%. I think most hardcore gamers, especially like the Sifted crew as well, like everyone on there can probably say the same thing. There's very few people I meet that are very much into video games that don't buy too many, sort of thing. Because, as the saying goes, it's better to have too many than too little. So I think that's the sort of stupid process that we all go through. And it's completely ridiculous. That's the thing. Like, and we all know it. Like, we all know it's completely idiotic to buy as many video games as we do when we don't have enough time to actually get through them. But we still do it because we're all addicted. And that's our life, I guess.
Yeah, it was a bit depressing going through my PlayStation 3 backlog and just like, oh, I completely forgot I even bought that game, and I never even downloaded it.
Shit, that's the worst. You haven't even downloaded
like floating in the ether somewhere. Yeah, right. It's so weird.
So you've got a license key somewhere. Yeah. Like, that's horrible.
Well, Wilson, it seems like you don't do this. Like, it seems like you kind of plan out how you're going to attack the games that you do want to play. Like, do you purchase too many games, or?
I would actually say no. I purchase
it sounds
a
like
lot.
You haven't.
But
Tell
I'm
me
very
your secrets,
disciplined
master.
in what I buy. I will throughout the month. I will look, and see what games interest me that are announced, or just as I'm looking into games that have been announced, see what interests me, and I'll just note them in my phone. And then once a month, I will sit down and I will write a physical list of games that I won. I've been doing this every month since I think June of 2009, and I just do it every single month.
Wow.
I have every game that I want, and each month I take out the ones that have come out and I put the ones that are new on the bottom of the list. And I've been doing it, for 7 years, over 7 years now, and it's really helped me not only to remember the games, because I have like 60 or 70, and I would literally just forget what I want to buy if I didn't do it. But it also it makes it so that if I have a game that isn't on the list, I'm much more hesitant to have an impulse purchase and buy it. I really try and stick to what I've got written down. And like I said, I know I do a lot of research in terms of looking at reviews and interviews and trailers and all of that before I buy a game, and before I even add it to the list. I'll really make sure, okay, am I interested in this? Is this something that I would really like to buy? And even though I'm never going to catch up to my, I'm never going to get through my backlog, I will play all of the games, but by the time I'm done with the 30 that I've got sitting here now, there'll be 30 more. So it doesn't feel futile, because I know that I'm going to get through everything. It's just that there'll be more waiting for me when I'm done. So, and at the end of the day, and I think, we're all in agreement here, like, this is our passion. This is something that we love to do. And so, I don't think that I buy too many, because it's something that I love to do, and I'm also very frugal in that I do my best to wait for sales and be as as stingy as possible when it comes to purchasing things. But for as many as I buy and as many as I own that I haven't played, and I got to say my backlog consists of a lot of 9.5 out of 10 because of the way that I play it. Like all the Game of the Year nominees last year, I haven't even gotten to yet.
Nice.
I still would insist that I don't buy enough games, or rather that I don't buy too many games. I buy more than enough, but
actually you don't buy enough games and you don't buy too many games. I think both of those statements are probably
spoken
true.
like a true gamer.
Yeah. Yeah, I might have to try that, because once a PlayStation sale pops up, if I have down on paper what I excited to buy and what I should be buying, what I know that I'll probably enjoy, that would probably keep me from going nuts when a game's like $3 or $4 and
right.
Yeah, you'd be surprised at the impact that has, because like I just sitting and looking at the list, it just makes me excited just to know all these games that are coming is exciting. And looking at my backlog, like I have fun with games that I haven't even taken the shrink wrap off of yet, because I'm just thinking about playing it, and it's exciting and it's fun. Like I love having games and collecting them just as much as I love playing them. So if it bothers you that you cherry pick every time there's a sale and you've got a bunch of games that are just nagging at you to play, I really think that writing a physical list is actually a really good tactic to kind of reduce that.
Yeah. And actually, Vin, I think that's kind of what we are doing at this point, trying to get a physical list for my PlayStation 4.
Indeed.
Next month.
Indeed. So, speaking of lists and talking about your PS4 games to buy, we've actually got a new suggestion for you, man. So we'll move on to Evan's Wish List, which is our new section of the podcast. We actually started it last week. But this week we've actually got one from... Who was it actually from? I need to double check. We got it from Curious Conjurer. That was his suggestion this week. And his suggestion would be, I'm going to have to recommend the PS4 sort of remake of Ratchet and Clank. I know Evan has played some of the other games in the series, and he seemed to enjoy them. So, Ratchet and Clank, man. I mean, it was sort of remake-ish, remaster thing. It was sort of meant to come out in the same line as the movie that was coming out. What is your interest in this one?
I would say 3 months ago, not very interested. After playing through the Ratchet and Clank Future series this summer,
yep.
And I think the first game didn't have any trophies because it came out before trophies were implemented. I platinumed all the other ones, and those games, that's probably like an 8 out of 10 for me. Those games are just so easy to digest, and they're so much fun to play.
Yeah, I mean, the new Ratchet and Clank game on the PS4, it just looks absolutely beautiful as well. When I first saw it, I was like, is this a trailer for the movie or is this the game? Like, I mean, I don't know if I feel that way now because obviously we're quite deep into the PS4 era now, so like I can sort of distinguish like what is current gen and what's not, sort of thing. So yeah. But at the time when I first saw it, I was like, wow, that looks incredible.
It was pretty insane. When I played the first Ratchet and Clank Future game, which I had never touched until this year, and I played through that, and I was like, man, that game was great. That PS4 Ratchet and Clank game came out, and I like watched like a review of it, and I was like, oh my god, like the difference between that first Ratchet and Clank PlayStation 3 game and this PlayStation 4 game, is night and day.
Yeah. So on the official press release, it says Ratchet and Clank blasts onto the PS4 for the first time with a new game based on elements from the original Ratchet and Clank on the PS2. Ratchet and Clank PS4 reimagines the characters' origin stories and modernizes the original gameplay, featuring all new boss fights, several new planets, new fight sequences, and much more. A completely new visuals constructed to take advantage of the power of the PS4. Cool. So 8 out of 10, you said? Or is that for the...
I would say, about probably an 8 out of 10. And actually, this is pretty cool because I never played the PlayStation 2 trilogy. And so this is kind of reintroducing the characters for the first time.
Yeah, apparently it's meant to be like an amalgamation. So it's sort of like a remaster of 2, but they actually bring in a lot of new mechanics from like all the later Ratchet and Clank games, and they sort of shove them into like what would be the original game all over again. So apparently it's very well balanced. So yeah, I haven't got around to this one either, but... This would be one for the old pile of shame if I'd bought it already, but I haven't bought this one yet. So
I'm definitely interested. I'd say right now Dying Light is at the top of the list, and then
it's a great game.
In second place, since there's only 2 games on the list right now, is Ratchet and Clank. Yeah,
and I do want to make a side note as well. We are going to carry on doing this until the very end of the year, so until probably Christmas. So even after you buy your PS4, I'm going to be throwing you recommendations because you're probably not going to go out and buy every single game that you wanted on the PS4 like day one. That would just be insane.
No, like, and my wallet will not. My wallet and my bank account will not allow me to do that. So I actually this list
a little bit.
This list helps, and what Wilson said, the way he tackles this stuff is probably going to help me, and my wallet's going to thank me for it because I can't just go out and buy every PlayStation 4 game I want.
Cool. So coming up to the end of the podcast, just want to say a massive thank you to Wilson for joining us once again on Podcast Reload. It's been really cool to have you on, man.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
No, always welcome, man. Cool. So do you want to kick off with your Twitter handle and any goodbyes you've got? So starting with you, Wilson. What is your Twitter handle and sign off?
Yeah, my Twitter handle is at Wilson_Twitch. And if you'll indulge me in plugging something, I actually mentioned this on I mentioned this on my previous appearance, but I have a Twitch stream that I do, as alluded to by the Twitter handle. The name of the channel is Wilson108, and it's something that I do every day, and I was already doing it back in May, and I'm doing it now. But since then, it has just continued to grow, and it's getting relatively big. There's a really, really cool community of people there. A few sifters have made appearances, which is always enjoyable. But it's a great place to just come hang out. I'm a variety streamer, so I really just play whatever I'm currently playing, and talk while I'm doing so, and converse with the people that come and hang out. It's a really fun place to be, and we're only getting bigger. So yeah, I highly recommend, if people enjoy watching live streams, to come drop by. I would love to have you.
Cool.
Sweet. How about you, Evan?
I got 2 things. One, just you can find me at The Stand User on Twitter, Giant Bomb, and Sifted. And my goodbye is a little song that luckily is now public domain, so we can actually sing it. Happy birthday to you.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, dear Vin. Happy birthday to you. Thanks for recording on your birthday.
Oh, thanks,
I probably wouldn't have done the same. So Well, you don't have to edit this episode, so that's fine.
No, it's been a very interesting birthday so far. I woke up and watched the presidential debate because we're recording on Monday, and then did a podcast, and then later on I'm going to go to Nara and feed some deer, I think, maybe.
That's what you do in Nara? Yeah.
That's what you do in Nara, so, yeah.
All right, Ben, what is your sign-off Twitter handle?
Cool.
Anything?
Yeah, so my Twitter handle is @VinHillArt. You can find me and some of my finger paintings on there. I've been bitching about the presidential debates recently. I apologize to anyone that gets offended by it. But there we go. It's a free world, I guess. Other than that, just want to say a huge, massive thank you. Oh, you can also find me on Sifted, obviously. You can find all three of us on Sifted. Yeah. I just want to say a massive thank you to all our listeners for tuning in again. And if you do want to be on the podcast, make sure you message Evan and just let him know what microphone you've got, when you can be on, and your location in the world. And we will try and get you on the show as soon as we can, because the list is thinning out a little bit, so we're going to start scrambling soon, I think. But
yeah. I mean, before the summer, it was like I was almost hoping people wouldn't ask to be on, because I'd have to tell them like it's a 3-month wait. But now, if you want to be on the podcast, you could be on within the month. That gives you an idea of how many people are on the list right now. So yeah.
Please come on.
If you're interested, send me a message on Sifted.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, massive thank you from us over here at Podcast Reload, and of course Wilson, our community guest. Yeah, we will catch you guys next time. So bye-bye.
Goodbye. I hope your game crashes.
Again, Sonic the Hedgehog.